I know a thing or two about redstone. I've built my fair share of redstone contraptions, you know, some of them big, some of them small, some of them complicated, some of them not that complicated, but I definitely have built quite a few of them. I mean, my redstone testing world is sort of living proof of this, and I have to say I don't actually build that much in my redstone testing world anymore. I tend to build things in their own dedicated worlds, so the number of redstone contraptions I've constructed is probably considerably higher than the ones that you actually see here, which is pretty impressive and also sort of worrying. How much time have I spent playing this game? I don't think I want to know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. But anyway, today's redstone video is not really dedicated to building a specific redstone contraption. I'm not even going to be running over specific redstone circuits inside redstone contraptions. Instead, I'm going to be running over concepts. These are the concepts that you need to understand to be good at redstone. Once you kind of get these concepts into your brain, then you'll really start to improve your redstone build. So let's start. Oh, and just to warn you, some of these concepts are advanced, some of them are simple, you're just gonna have to make your way through. Concept number 1 is understanding double-sided redstone contraptions. That already sounds complex, doesn't it? And this looks relatively complex, but it's just to show off the concept at play, because this redstone contraption right here has two sides to it. It has the activating side, which does one thing, and then it has the deactivating side, which does something slightly different. And if you don't understand how to build this inside your redstone contraptions, then you're really going to struggle. So, how exactly do you build this inside your redstone contraptions? Well, I've built a little example out the back here, which I think demonstrates it the best. So if we activate, get out of here. So when we activate the lever, you can see the left piston fires, and when we deactivate the lever, the right piston fires. And the way that we do this is by using rising edge and falling edge monostable circuits. Anything that we want to happen when we activate the lever should go through a rising edge monostable circuit, and anything that we want to happen when we deactivate the lever should go through a falling edge monostable circuit. And this applies to this slightly bigger redstone contraption, and even bigger redstone contraptions, like absolutely huge ones, still work on this principle. Well, that was a very complicated and wordy start to the video. Right, let's move on to the next concept, and that is the importance of understanding the power of one-tick pulses. You see, one-tick pulses they're probably one of the most useful things in Minecraft Redstone. Mojang kind of introduced it as a way to prevent sand duplication. That's the reason that it's in the game. There's no special reason why they thought it would be a good feature. It was just to try and prevent sand duplication, and it's ended up being one of the most important features of Redstone because it allows us to essentially convert sticky pistons into regular pistons on demand. So for example, this sticky piston right here, we want to get this block into this area here, so we want to move this block out the way but then have a gap that actually pushes that block in, and that is only possible through the use of one-tick pulses. So not only are one-tick pulses great for keeping your redstone contraptions fast and quick, but they're also good for block storage systems. This underneath me right here would be considered a block storage system, the more you know. Another common use for one-tick pulses is inside toggles, things like T flip-flops. In fact, I would say that's pretty much the only way that I build T flip-flops and toggles, to be honest with you. Anyway, on to the next concept. And it's almost the complete flip side of the one-tick pulse thing, because now we're going to be taking a look at the importance of pulse length differences. I completely forgot that I'd placed in all of these signs here. So yes, this is the importance of pulse length differences, being able to understand how you can use pulse length to your advantage. So say for example we have this system right here, which is a really easy block swapper. So if we flick this lever, we want that piston to retract first, and then we want this piston to extend. But then on the flip side, of course, we need this piston to retract first, and then that piston to extend second. So that means that the roles have kind of reversed, and without the use of a pulse extender, this thing wouldn't actually function. So we need to make sure that we understand pulse lengths and how we can manipulate them to make our redstone contraptions work. And obviously this concept is on an incredibly small scale here, but it can be applied to much larger redstone contraptions. For example, actually, if we go back to the first build that I showcased in this video, this actually makes use of pulse lengtheners. So on the extension, we want this piston to extend first, then this piston to extend second, and then this piston to extend third. But then on the retraction, we want this piston to retract first, this one to retract second, and this one to retract third, which means that I've used a kind of staggered set of pulse extenders here to make that work. This video has ended up a lot more complicated sounding than I was expecting. Let's move on to the next concept. Hopefully this one's a little bit simpler. You should really be able to understand how transparent blocks work within your redstone contraptions and how you can use them to your advantage, because there's all sorts of benefits to transparent blocks. For example, number one is that they power in certain areas, they don't power in certain areas, and you can use this throughout your redstone builds to make sure that you don't have things powering when you don't want them to be powered. For example, if you have a redstone line running next to a piston, you can use transparent blocks to make sure that that piston doesn't get activated by the redstone line if you don't want it to be activated by the redstone line. The next way that you can use transparent blocks in your build is by having one directional redstone lines. You see, redstone signals can't travel down transparent blocks, they can only travel up them, which means that you can actually create repeaterless one-way signal senders. And then also, of course, the most common use of transparent blocks in redstone builds is that you can actually run redstone kind of up through them like this, creating redstone line towers that travel vertically, which is incredibly handy. I mean, I don't know what we'd do without that. That was a little bit easier, wasn't it? I think, maybe. Right, next. Observers are the best. It's a simple fact. In fact, I think this sign sums it up perfectly. Use observers, just do it. You should have observers in your repertoire of things that you understand with redstone, because once you start to understand how they function, it's a complete game changer. I can't think of a single redstone component that has been a bigger game changer recently than the observer. And we just recently got honey blocks, okay, and they're a big game changer, but observers are just next level, because you can use them to send one-tick pulses through things, you can use them to send redstone signals in strange ways, you can use them in flying machines, you can use them pretty much everywhere, okay? They're amazing, alright? So do plenty of experimentation with them, learn how they function, and it will completely change your redstone game. Variety really is the spice of redstone, and also the spice of life. In fact, variety is the spice of life, but it's also the spice of redstone. I don't know what I'm talking about. You should know a variety of different ways to do the same thing with redstone, because when you're building up redstone contraptions and things, sometimes you'll have a gap that fits a certain way of doing something that doesn't fit your usual way of doing things. If that makes any sense whatsoever. I think it does. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it does. So for example, here we have 3 different ways of building a T flip-flop. Here we have the one-tick pulse way of building a T flip-flop, which is my kind of go-to, but then if that doesn't work in a certain redstone contraption, maybe I could use a locking repeater system, and then if that doesn't fit inside the redstone contraption, maybe I could look into using a hopper-dropper T flip-flop. There are different ways of doing everything in redstone. Every single type of redstone circuit probably has about 1,001 different designs and ways that you can do it. So you should learn a decent number of them so you have a variety to choose from when you run into certain issues. Which actually brings me very nicely onto my next point, and that is that YouTube is your friend. YouTube is your best friend when it comes to making redstone contraptions, especially that Mumbo Jumbo guy. He's definitely one to watch. I don't know if I can have a plug like that. No, I definitely can't. Just totally ignore what I just said. But seriously, YouTube is a fantastic resource for anyone who's looking to learn anything. To be honest with you, forget redstone. You can learn how to bake a cake. You can learn how to fix a car. You can learn how to render a roof. The whole lot, okay? But specifically with redstone contraptions, I don't think you render roofs actually. Anyway, specifically with redstone contraptions, you can learn tons, okay? There's thousands upon thousands of videos out there that you can watch of different innovative ways to do all sorts of different things in redstone, and you should definitely make use of that resource. I've just looked it up, and no, you can't render a roof. I was talking nonsense. Anyway, away from DIY, the next redstone concept that I want to talk to you about isn't really a redstone concept, but it's more of a mindset, okay? Because there is a mindset that occasionally I've found myself getting into, which I've now realised is totally stupid, and that is being afraid or scared to tackle certain areas of redstone. When comparators were first introduced into the game, I was terrified of them, okay? I didn't want to learn anything about them because I was scared to use them in my redstone builds, and it turns out that actually comparators are relatively easy to understand things. You would have thought I would learn from this, but no, when slime blocks were introduced into the game and people started making crazy flying machines, instead of jumping on that and thinking, this is awesome, I want to build loads of flying machines too, I got too scared and didn't construct them in the slightest. And, I mean, why? But seriously, why? Don't be afraid to tackle certain areas of redstone. Trust me, it's probably easier than it looks. Unless it isn't. I mean, there are some things that are really complicated that you should be scared of, but that's not a great message for a video, is it? So let's move on. When you're building a redstone contraption, you need to know what the goal of that redstone contraption is. Now, what do I mean by this? Because that seems a little bit strange. Surely you just want to build the redstone contraption. But no, if you want to make the most compact redstone build, then you have to understand that you're probably going to have to make some sacrifices there. For example, this is an incredibly compact 3x3 piston door, and the opening and closing sequence is horrendously ugly. There's no denying it, okay? It's not a looker, but it is 1 block wide, okay? And it's incredibly small. There's no denying that. So the goal for this redstone contraption wasn't to make a beautifully synchronized, perfectly fast 3x3 piston door. It was to make the most compact 3x3 piston door. Whereas, for example, if you're designing an entrance for your base and you want it to be beautifully symmetrical and synchronized, then that's your goal for the redstone contraption. Maybe don't worry so much about keeping it super compact and instead focus on those things. It seems super simple, I know, but I can promise you the number of times I've built redstone contraptions where I lose focus of the initial goal in the hopes of making it faster or more compact. Yeah, I've lost count. Now, onto a slightly cynical thing that you should know about redstone is that there's probably a way to do it, unless there isn't. Okay, sometimes you will come up with a redstone concept that you think is absolutely genius, and then you won't be able to do it, either through lack of skill, or actually, if you've been really, really ambitious, complete inability to do it within the basic laws of Minecraft. Okay? But one thing that I definitely would suggest doing before you start doing any wiring is doing what I like to call a dry run, or a lever run, I guess you could say, by literally going through the process of just flicking the levers and working out what needs to be powered and how you're going to power it and where it needs to be powered from, and then you can start to understand roughly what your wiring diagram is going to look like. And I can promise you, if you can't make your redstone contraption work with you just flicking levers, then you're not going to be able to do it with the wires in place. So that is my list of incredibly important things that you need to understand about redstone and how you should tackle redstone projects and things. I understand that some of the concepts in this video were probably a little bit heavy. Maybe you might need to watch this one a couple of times for it all to sink into your old cranium, but I hope that it was enjoyable, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya! Yeah, I forgot to say see ya. Alright? This is my first video back from the Philippines. I've had, I think it's been 19 or 20 days since I've actually produced a video, which is probably the longest time that I've had between recording, and it means that I've come back with new energy, but also complete in practice. So it's a funny mix. One.